also have a strong Scottish accent, so I'll try and speak very, very
I have a
slowly.
special Belgian accent.
So I know it's sometimes very difficult to understand my accent, but I'll try my best. There's a very important question, actually, in terms of the balance between a sort of the life of the community, I would call it, in terms of people who are using drugs, but people who are also affected by it in our communities as well. I wear a pin badge to everywhere I go, and it's our city's motto, effectively, and it's "People make Glasgow." And that motto means all people who are using drugs, people who are impacted by drugs, families, our communities, and indeed just the wider population of the city. And I think that's hugely important because for us to take forward a proper public health approach, we need to bring our communities with us, including everybody in the city, and also giving a voice fundamentally to people who are using drugs in our city as well. And that's something that we've been championing for quite a number of years. Glasgow, I feel, probably is a harm reduction city as well. Probably not officially got that title, but we've been taking a public health approach to drug addiction for many, many years, whether it be through our needle exchange programme. We've obviously got a quite a significant naloxone programme now as well that operates in Scotland and indeed our city. And we've been championing harm reduction in terms of advocating for a safe consumption facility in Scotland as well and in Glasgow. And thankfully, we've managed to win that fight and that argument within the context of the UK, within the context of the Misuse of Drugs Act. But it's taken far, far too long. It's taken over 10 years of hard work from a lot of people. There's been a lot of advocates for that policy in Scotland. And also, one of the things I think we've done really well is we've managed to get a cross-party consensus. And I think that's hugely important because ultimately this is a political problem. It's a political issue. We heard earlier in the panel is sometimes it's not a popular thing to talk about. It's sometimes a very difficult subject to talk about, but we need leaders, we need strong local advocates, strong politicians who can really take this discussion forward and actually take the discussion into our communities and bring our communities with us. And that's something that we've been doing in terms of the delivery of a safe consumption room in Glasgow. So I think that is hugely important, but also bringing our police, our prosecutors, etc., into the discussion as well, because I don't think we will never win the war on drugs. It will never happen unless there's fundamental changes in the way in which we do that. And you will never, ever support somebody with an addiction by prosecuting them. It should never be a criminal justice issue. It should always be a public health issue. And that's the way in which we treat drug addiction in Glasgow and indeed in Scotland. And our police and our law enforcement are starting to come round to that same way as well. And they are now advocating for harm reduction. They're now advocating for, a public health approach to the problem rather than prosecuting, because it never works and it will never work. The war on drugs will never work, and that's why we need to look at radical changes to policy and to regulation. Glasgow, I think, became the first city to formally adopt a position of decriminalisation anywhere in the UK. So that is our formal position, but we don't have the powers to enact that, which is really frustrating. And I think that we need to drive policy change from a local position, whether it be local government or local councils, because we're at the front face of the services that we're providing to address this issue. National government don't see it day to day. And I think that's the huge problem. They're so far away from the problem where they don't really understand the issues. And when I say national government, I'm talking more about the UK government in this context, because I think the Scottish government have taken a real humane approach to drug policy, and they are now also advocating for decriminalisation within the context of Scotland and asking for those laws to be devolved to the Scottish Parliament, which is a huge, significant change. But we, as I say, see it in the coalface. So we're the ones that are driving that policy change, and I think we need to organise. We need to make sure that we are advocating for, first and foremost, decriminalisation. But I think we'll speak later on at another event potentially about regulation, and I think that's a hugely important thing. And I think politicians need to be brave. They need to grasp the argument, and actually, whether they take a view one way or the other, but it needs to be in the debate. We need to be talking about this, and we need to be making that radical change.